Today on the Revealed Report, we may be a little bit less passionate than what we have been in the last couple episodes. As you can see, or you have seen, that my passion has been a little high, and I'm not very sorry for that. However, I want to talk about a very serious subject matter, and I want to do my very best to convey the importance of this subject matter and the need to deeply assess it and assess ourselves and to seek out the answers how we resolve these very serious situations. So I'm going to do my very best to be a little bit more toned down. However, who knows? Maybe an update comes out before the end of this and spikes my passion back up again. But hey, if you like that kind of content, then this is your place because we're going to try to give you the hardest hitting, cleanest cultural conservative commentary we can give you. But today on this Revealed Report episode, I want to talk about the undercurrent in America, the dangerous undercurrent. I want to go back in time and talk a little bit about World War One, because one bullet that assassinated Franz Ferdinand was just enough to plunge society and the world into the undercurrent that began to pull it into the chaotic wars that we've seen. And so the question must be asked, is the undercurrent between the political and ideological divide so strong that one more bad event or a series of bad events could plunge us into that undercurrent? It's something we need to deeply assess, and I believe we need to pray about. In addition to that, we have a major announcement that we want to announce to you about what is going to debut this Saturday on the Revealed Radio Network, and we also have an extension to our network that we believe that you'll be excited to hear about. Thank you for tuning back in. Let's go. Before we get into today's subject matter, I want to announce to you a big announcement we have with the Revealed Radio Network and also an extension to the Revealed Radio Network. And it debuts this Saturday. So we are extending the Revealed Radio Network into Revealed Kids. And we are going to be debuting some kids content. And there's going to be really two avenues of these kids content, but they both overlap with one another. Number one, we want to put a love for the Bible, for Jesus Christ, into the heart of this next generation. So we have some content that's going to be pro God, pro Bible content for the next generation. Also, we want to preserve a love for this nation, a love for the founding principles of America in the next generation. So this Saturday, we debut our first Revealed Kids content, and it is Revealed Kids Bedtime Stories. There will be two stories aired every Saturday night. It starts at 7 p.m. and they run back to back. The first one is a children's story that brings in the concepts of the Bible. And the second one is a children's story that brings in the concepts of America's founding principles. Also, God is going to be mentioned in that too, because we are not ashamed of them. So we're excited about that. Please be looking out for that, especially if you have children. Give them pro God, pro American content to go to sleep listening to. I think you'll enjoy it. Also, just go ahead and get this out of the way. If you haven't made your purchase yet, I want to say thank you to everybody who has purchased The Final Flame on Amazon or has received signed copies. For those that are waiting for your signed copy, we are still mailing them out this week. You'll get an email, you'll get a confirmation, you'll get a tracking number as well. I have been signing many of these this week and we are shipping them out. So we are so thankful for those that have purchased The Final Flame, a great novel mystery thriller that packs in the truth of cultural principles as well as the Bible in it. Well, today I want to talk about the undercurrent, the dangerous undercurrent in America today. I want to go back in World War One's time frame. You see, a lot of people say that World War One was caused by the assassination of Franz Ferdinand as he was shot uh, and ending his life right there. But the truth of the matter is that bullet is not exactly what caused World War One. It is what triggered it, but there was a lot of things that were going on before it ever got there. There was an undercurrent that was going on, a very dangerous undercurrent in the world. And the assassination of Franz Ferdinand was the very thing that plunged the world into that undercurrent and allowed the world to begin to heat up, fracture, and wars began to be the ramification because of that. You see, in the First World War, it did not happen because of that one assassin's bullet. That was only the trigger. The real cause was the poisonous undercurrent, entangled alliances, and socialism on the rise. Now, there's a lot of people that's going to lie to you about the history books, and they're going to tell you that nationalism, Nazism, fascism was a far right concept. It was not. Actually, it was a socialistic concept. They were the National Socialists. See, the difference between the Marxists and the fascists, which fascism is just a blend and a little bit of a change of Marxism. They're both socialists. The one was globalist, the one was nationalist. Nationalism in itself is not wrong, even though a lot of people want to deem that as wrong because of Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. But proper nationalism, there's nothing wrong with that. Taking care of your nation first before others and securing the rights of your nations before worried about global alliances. There is nothing wrong with that. Now, I want to tell you that I am not America only. I'm not American isolationist, but I am America first. And so I do believe in a level of nationalism, and I despise and I reject the globalists that want to try to deteriorate America's principles and founding uh, documents and articles and their Bill of Rights and the Constitution and our concept of being built on God and God we trust, so that we begin to accept humanistic ideologies that's being propagated by globalists today. I absolutely reject that completely and entirely. But that does not make us extreme right fascists, because the fascists were not extreme right. They were actually from the liberal side of the camp as well. You see, Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, and those, they wanted to kill all the capitalists. They wanted to take over capitalism. They wanted to destroy capitalism. Mussolini and Adolf Hitler began to say, we'll just join with the capitalists and we'll use them to do our dirty work so that they're not saved from a tyrannical government, because the government is using the capitalists, the very corporations, to do their dirty work and push down the radicalized ideology and tyranny down on the people. So a constitution doesn't save them from corporations, it saves them from a tyrannical government. And they did it on a national scale, while the Marxists, full blown Marxists, did it on a global scale with a global ideology. But yet, at the same time, the fascists were actually trying to go for world domination. But they were both leaning. It wasn't like left and right fighting one another. So the whole concept of calling conservatives nationalists doesn't even make sense from its very root. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because we are not a part of the ideologies that Mussolini and Adolf Hitler believed in. As a matter of fact, we're not trying to crush the capitalists like the radical left was. The radical left, on one hand, wants to go against all of the wealthy, but on the other hand, they want to suppress them under their rule and use them. So they have a blend of Marxist socialism, communism with fascism blended together to create a unique, dangerous ideology. And so the right is not, we can't buy into the very concept that we are even anything like those concepts. We're not at all, not whatsoever. And so what we find, though, during World War One, there was these rivalries and unresolved tensions. The world was a powder keg waiting for a match. But likewise, in America today, we have entangled alliances today, not military alliances, but ideological ones: humanism, postmodernism, radical leftism, and Marxism. These forces bind our culture into knots of confusion and hostility. And all it may take is one more spark or a series of sparks for the culture to explode. Could it be a political assassination? Could it be one more act of violence to ignite the undercurrent, to plunge us into the undercurrent? I just read the article that now the bomb squad has happened to go to where the funeral, the memorial of Charlie Kirk is at, because the radical leftist Marxist humanists are trying to threaten. There was the potential threat of a bomb to try to kill their opposition, people that believe in the Bible, people that believe in conservative values, that are still patriots to this nation. There's another historical parallel. The Civil War did not begin with the first cannon blast at Fort Sumter. It began decades earlier with slavery, state rights debates, and deep economic divides. America was split on a moral fault line, and after enough pressure, The ground gave way. Today, our nation is again split on moral fault lines. The battle lines may not be marked by North and South, but by truth and lies, by truth and deception, by abortion, gender ideology, the sexualization of children, Marxist infiltration into our schools and government. These are the issues that shake the very foundations of our republic. Just as slavery corroded the moral conscience of America, so do these issues corrode us today. We must understand that we are dealing with some very, very dangerous undercurrent, and something has to resolve it. And I'm not so sure we have the human intellect to be able to resolve it. And I'll talk about that in a little while. You see, the radical left, they have propagated such violence and they have radicalized the youth to make them violent monsters. We've seen the riots, BLM and Antifa, burning cities, assaulting police officers, destroying businesses. We've seen political violence glorified by Hollywood, whispered in classrooms, and cheered on social media. And we even had people like Chris Cuomo saying, "Who says that rioting has to be peaceful?" And now we've seen the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a man who stood boldly for faith, family, and freedom. He especially stood for free speech in America and the right to debate. This is where unchecked rhetoric leads to. A generation is being raised to believe that violence is not only acceptable, but virtuous if it advances their agenda. The ends justify the means to them. This is a terrifying shift in our culture. They are dehumanizing humanity while saying that they are trying to elevate humanity. At the root of this is humanism. Humanism removes God, so man makes himself God. Once human beings are reduced to nothing more than evolved animals, dignity is erased. If there is no divine image in man, then life is disposable. Violence becomes justified. Postmodernism denies absolute truth, leaving only your truth versus my truth. Marxism goes further, reducing people into categories of oppressors and oppressed, fanning flames of resentment and division instead of reconciliation and peace. These ideologies churn the waters of unrest, creating the undercurrent that pulls our nation closer to collapse. After Charlie Kirk's death, conservatives did not riot. We did not burn cities, and we did not call for violence. Instead, we mourned, we prayed, and we spoke the truth. We fight spiritually, intellectually, and politically, not with fire bombs or fists, but with conviction, reason, and faith. We love the souls of those who oppose us, even as we refuse to embrace their lies. But every group has a breaking point. That's what I'm concerned about. We must acknowledge a sobering truth that every person, every group of people has a line that eventually, if you cross it, they're going to break. Martin Luther King Jr. said, violent rioting, true violent rioting, not those that just trying to steal Louis Vuitton purses, but true violent rioting is the voice of the unheard. It's a breaking point. Even the peaceful Martin Luther King Jr. acknowledged that there's a breaking point. I'm not trying to say that the breaking point is right, just, moral, or good. I'm just acknowledging the fact that in life, to all people, there's a breaking point. The patriots of 1776 endured much under British tyranny before they finally said, enough. They reached their threshold. Conservatives today have been remarkably patient, enduring slander, censorship, and cultural persecution. But if families, faith, and freedoms are continually trampled, how long before society fractures? Without rival, without a serious understanding that we are truly at rival at ideas, but somehow the rival of ideas somehow must become revival in the heart of people. And that's the question. How do we get there? How do we turn the rivaling into revivaling? And how do we turn the human deterioration towards one another into divine intervention. It's hard to see how America avoids a reckoning. You see, there are issues on which we cannot yield. We cannot compromise the transgender ideology that mutilates bodies and confuses children. We on the right cannot compromise with the social gospel that replaces salvation with activism. We cannot compromise with reverse racism, Marxist economics, abortion, or LGBTQ2 plus redefinition of morality. Why? Because compromise with evil is not compassion, it is surrender. Loving people does not mean embracing lies. As Christians and conservatives, we must be both kind and courageous, standing on truth no matter the cost. We must not forget that America's turmoil is part of a global shaking. Wars and rumors of wars swirl around us: Ukraine, the Middle East, China, and Taiwan. Alliances are shifting. Instability is rising, and global tensions grow sharper every single day. Just as before World War I, all it could take is one more bullet. One event on the world stage to plunge nations into a war none of us can contain. How bad do you think it would have got if President Trump would have been assassinated? Or if something happened to him today? Strong leaders must be strong, but I want to remind even our side, even the President of the United States, that while we must have strong leaders, we also need God's hand on it. Human wisdom is not enough. We need leaders with conviction, not compromise. Leaders who love America's founding principles and will not sell them for political gain. But even strong leadership is not enough. If it is cut off from the hand of God, it will never stand the test of time. Without Jesus Christ, no leader can save this nation. Only divine miracles can turn us back from this edge, this cliff that we were hanging over. This is why we must pray. This is why we must seek the face of God. We are living in some of the most dangerous of times. The undercurrent of violence, dehumanization, and division is pulling hard at our nation. One spark could set it ablaze, but our God is greater than the undercurrent. America needs revival, revival of truth, of courage, of conviction. Without it, the next bullet in history may plunge us into chaos. With it, God can lift us above the storm. The time to pray, the time to speak, the time to stand is now. Today, I don't wish to present you a long episode. I really just want to get to the point. America, we really need to go back to the founding principles, and especially to the understanding that we are one nation under God. The reason why we have become so divided is because we have removed our submission under the hand of God. We need to bring God back to our institutions, back to our corporations, back to our education system, back to our politics, back to every element and every aspect of our life. We need a restoration of the understanding that this nation was built on biblical principles. America, I love you. God bless you.